Loneliness in men, in their marriages, and then after divorce. Robin Williams was quoted as saying, "I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel all alone." That quote from Robin Williams always amazed me and always shocked me because, the guy was just a tremendous actor and comedian and loved by people all over the world. And to realize he really suffered from loneliness, even with all that love that he received from his fans and such. So it got me thinking about the epidemic of loneliness within men, within their marriage and or after divorce. So that's what we're going to discuss today on Resilient Man channel. Welcome back. If you would, like and subscribe, and please comment your thoughts and such. We'd love to read them. Loneliness is epidemic with men today. I think a lot of us keep it to ourselves and, be resilient, which is why I'm discussing it on Resilient Man channel. It's a struggle that we have. Number one, it's challenging to struggle through the loneliness and then to remain resilient through it as well. So today we're going to talk about, number one, I want to discuss some of the hopes that men have as we enter into a marriage. We have hopes and dreams just like women do for our marriage. We're going to discuss 3 signs you're in a lonely marriage, and then we're going to discuss some coping strategies, some ideas that may help you as well. And then ultimately, maybe you need to look at the total picture and decide what's best for you. So let's jump into it. Again, guys, welcome back to Resilient Man channel. So let's discuss men's hopes, for their marriage. I know I had them in my marriage, as far as a lot of you guys can probably agree with this. First and foremost, you want that special woman that you've chosen to share your life with, and you're hoping to enter into the marriage, and you're going to have a lifelong relationship, and someone who is consistently by your side, somebody for support, somebody who is a sanctuary in your house, as far as love and support goes, and that type of thing. Obviously, we want sex to enjoy that intimacy with our wife. And ultimately, a lot of us want children and eventually grandchildren in the future. We want to create a family legacy, especially with our family name. So, those are some of the hopes and aspirations or dreams or what have you that a lot of us men have when we enter into a marriage. And, years into the marriage, or however long it is with yours, we find that's not going to be the case. And then loneliness starts to creep in because the woman that you're with is no longer the woman that she was when you were dating and when you were courting, and for multiple reasons. And I would say, first and foremost, there are 2 sides here. There's the wife and there's the husband, and both play a part. But I think on the whole, a lot of men, a lot of husbands legitimately have and are trying to do their very best to please their wife, make their wife happy, and find it's just not possible, that they simply cannot meet the expectations. And the wife, in return, does start to distance herself and become less and less um, emotionally available, emotionally supportive, or wanting intimacy and things of that nature. And so the man finds himself to becoming more and more lonely. He finds himself to really just be going through the motions. You know, he goes to work, he earns a living, he does all that, he helps with the kids, he, blah, 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 tries to help with the wife and what she wants, and gets very little in return. Unfortunately, a part of this a part of the reasoning for the woman's side is, you know, she decides, well, he's not all that I thought or hoped he would be, and in some cases, unfortunately, I settled for him. So maybe he was not even my first choice, which, makes her pull away and distance herself, which makes the man lonely and trying to figure out how to get that loving wife back. And so there's just, multiple situations with that. It can create a situation where you find, time is going by and you're increasingly getting more and more lonely and distanced. And you start to wonder, what is the point of this? I mean, other than having children, what was the point of us coming together in our union? And that's a fair question. I mean, some of you guys are asking yourself that question. If you are, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So a lot of the times, the things I listed out before, sharing your life with somebody, having somebody who is consistently by your side and supportive, sex, and then children and then grandchildren in the future. A lot of you right now, you have the last one. You have produced children, and hopefully there'll be grandchildren in the future to continue on your family legacy. But the other things are gone. I mean, there's someone to share your life with. Yeah, she's physically there, but emotionally and everything else, she's not. And then by your side and supportive, not really. I mean, you're kind of on your own. And then sex is non-existent as well. So these are legitimate feelings that you're having. These are legitimate concerns, and they do wear on you. And it is unfortunate and epidemic in a lot of men's lives today. So let's talk about a few signs that you're in a lonely marriage. These are very general. There's more, of course, but the first one is the emotional disconnect. If you think about it, you met your woman and you dated and you courted, and man, you felt a connection. You felt a vibe. It was there. She was wonderful. She understood you. She was supportive. All these different things. And then you got married and time went by, and and the emotional disconnect simply got worse and worse, and really indifference has set in. I mean, she's indifferent to you. And as a man, that is really painful. We want the connection with our wives. We want the attention of our wives. We want the affection of our wives. We want our wives to still want us. And when she emotionally disconnects, that can really cause a lot of loneliness. I mean, you feel on your own. You're out there fighting the battles of life on your own, and that can be very tough. So that's number one. Number two sign would be you avoid your spouse. You've come to start avoiding your spouse. In other words, you purposely look for reasons to not be home, not be around her. Maybe you spend more time with friends or in your hobbies and interests. You get off work and instead of going home, you'd rather run errands or do things that you purposely do not want to come home. And, the reason behind it is, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's a physical body there, but she's not really there. And so that is part of the sign that you're very lonely within your marriage, because you're basically alone. And then the third sign of loneliness in your is you sleep in separate rooms and or there's no sex. I can tell you, I've experienced all three of these. The emotional disconnect. I experienced that within my marriage. I mean, when we were dating and courting, I was just like, this is, man, she gets me. We are connected emotionally, and she is my support. She's my best friend. She's my lover. She's everything. And then after marriage, that changed, and many variables, of course, and of course, no one is completely to blame. But a lot of times, I feel in my marriage, and maybe you feel this way in yours, it's by choice by her. She chooses to distance herself. I know the second thing about avoiding your spouse and purposely looking for reasons not to be around her. I know, man, I mean, there was a lot of conflict in my marriage. And when I would I would purposely stay away from home, after work, or if I was doing a guy's camping trip or whatever. I mean, I couldn't wait to get the hell out of town, because at least it was a few days that I was away from her. That's a shame. That's just such a shame. And I know a lot of you guys are hearing this or nodding your head going, yeah, I can relate to that. And then the third sign that I mentioned, you sleep in a separate room and there's no sex. It's over. It's over. I mean, there's no intimacy there. You are essentially roommates. And this is something that I experienced within my marriage as well. I mean, I got to the point, I can remember, I looked forward to going to sleep in the other room. I did not want to lay next to her anymore. I mean, if you think about that, that's pathetic. It's sad. This was the woman I chose to date, court, and marry and spend the rest of my life with. And it evolved into this. And so I'm sharing these three signs with you because I'm sure a lot of you can relate to them, and you're going through them and you're feeling this, and it's legitimate. Now, again, there is your side and there is her side. And what I would encourage is, are you doing everything you can do to be the best version of you, to be the best husband that you can be? If you can answer that question, yes, fair enough. If not, look at what you need to continue to work on to see if you can improve this situation. So hopefully, and then hopefully repair that to where, you can overcome this and not be lonely, and her not be lonely within your marriage as well. But this situation, unfortunately, I mean, it's something you really have to work on, and you really have to look at honestly, especially if this is going on for years. It's no way to live. I mean, are you going to continue like this? So those were the three signs that I would share, and of course I shared a few of my own situation and such. Personally, I will never be in that situation ever again. I do agree with Robin Williams' quote about, being alone is not desirable, but being alone when you're with the person that you're sharing your life with, that has been some of the most terrible times in my life, and I will never stay in that situation ever again. Some of you guys can relate to that, or maybe you're in it right now and you're trying to decide how best to approach this. So, but it's terrible. I mean, it's really, really terrible. So, So let's talk about some things that may help you to cope and to work through this, and then ultimately what you need to decide. My first suggestion is that you seek out therapy, um, preferably a man, preferably a man who is married, maybe someone, I do not suggest a young man who doesn't have much experience in life, but someone who can relate to the experience that you're going through, being lonely in in your marriage and or after divorce. One thing I would say about divorce, because I really didn't hit on that, let's hit on that for a second. So you were married, now you're divorced, and in your marriage you were lonely and miserable, and it was terrible. And so you divorced for whatever reason, and or maybe she divorced you, whatever the case might be, it doesn't really matter. I know in my case, the loneliness I feel after divorce is more preferred than the loneliness I felt when I was married, because as I mentioned before, it's terrible. It's terrible to be actually in a relationship and in a marriage with someone who is supposed to be your sanctuary and supposed to be your support and your love and your intimate partner and all that thing, and they're none of those things. And so it's why is this person even in my life? And that's a terrible question to have to ask yourself. Whereas after divorce, sure, it can get lonely. And yes, there are times where you're like, I'd love to have someone. That's a fact. But I know for myself, and I would imagine a lot of you watching this can relate and agree, the peace and the tranquility that I have now, being divorced, not being trapped in a miserable marriage, is preferable to being with somebody who makes you feel alone. And so hopefully maybe that might encourage you a little bit for you guys that are divorced and, sometimes might think to yourself, gosh, man, at least when I was married, I had somebody there. But did you really? I mean, really, a lot of us, she was there physically, but every other way, she was not there. And so at least now you don't have to contend with the conflict and that type of thing. You have peace. You can do what you want when you want. And hopefully you will meet somebody that will be a good companion, at least to give you companionship. So that's what I would share as far as divorce, if you are divorced. So back to my coping suggestions and stuff. Number one, therapy, preferably a male who has similar experiences in life. You need to discuss your loneliness. Loneliness, in many ways, is grief. It's loss, and you need to discuss that and talk it out and have someone who can help you put it in the proper perspective, give you hope for each day and that type of thing. I strongly suggest it. The other thing is to rely on and share it with your friends and family. There's nothing embarrassing or wrong about admitting, hey, I'm lonely, in my marriage or after my divorce. It's normal. It's a normal feeling. It's a normal thing to experience. And friends and family who love you and care about you can come alongside and encourage you and give you hope and remind you, you might not have a companion in your life right now, but you do have people who love you. And that's very important. It's very important. The last thing I would say with coping is make sure you are staying active in your hobbies and your interests and that type of thing. I think for a lot of us men, our hobbies, our interests our goals that we're working on, things like that. That should be a lot of our focus in life anyways, because mentally and physically and emotionally, they play a big part in giving us satisfaction and sustaining us through each day. And I really believe that. I really believe that. I guess it plays a big part as far as you need to be happy with yourself and with your life, even if you are married or after divorce, because the other person cannot meet all your needs anyway. So that will help with the loneliness as well. And then the question that I would ask for you to consider, because I know I did within my own life and in my own marriage, was how long can you sustain this in life? How long can you go on being lonely and accepting that this is your lot in life and this is all there is, and you're just kind of stuck with this and you're going to coast until your dying day? If that's you, I would encourage you to rethink that, and I would, to have a different perspective. Unfortunately, I do have friends who are in miserable marriages and have been for, 20 plus years. And they have literally told me, yeah, I'm not leaving the marriage. I'm not going to divorce because I don't want to start over again. I'm just going to stay miserable and coast until I'm done. And how sad is that? How sad is that? I just personally believe that you deserve better. You deserve more than that. You shouldn't come to the end of your life and it is regret and it is sorrow and it is sadness. You should come to the end, hopefully with at least a smile on your face, thinking of the things that you did, the dreams you had, the goals you went after, the travel that you experienced, the fun you experienced, the family and friends that you experienced, and all those wonderful things. You don't want it to be, man, I spent all those years lonely. So, guys, that's what I got for you today on Resilient Man channel. I hope this helps some. I know a lot of you guys are struggling with loneliness. It's epidemic among men out there. So, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, know your worth, protect your peace.